Hi everyone, I just wanted to give a quick intro and context to these videos. So I have a friend locally here who I play Digimon and Magic and some other stuff with who has expressed interest in WIXOSS. And obviously the game is 2 years old at this point, recently hit the anniversary or about to hit it, something like that. And we were playing and he sort of asked me offhand, like, is there a list of staples or anything like that out there? And I kind of thought and I was like, there's kind of not. So I made a bunch of them, one for each color and one for multicolor and colorless. And we basically went through it and recorded. It was sort of like a live stream thing. So it ended up being a lot longer than I thought. So I'm going to split these up into one for each color and then one for colorless slash multicolored. And I will also post the lists for all of them below if you wanted to check them out and see. There are some cards that I did not put in here and I forgot as we were going through, and I caught some of them and I have updated some of the lists. But so yeah, if you are new to the game, trying to figure out what the good stuff is, what people are playing at the 2 year anniversary point, this should hopefully get you started. This is sort of like a primer for people who are coming in knowing nothing, just to get a quick idea of what's out there. So enjoy. So red is one of the lower end colors. It's very good at aggro. There also is a subset of red cards that care about having other red cards, much more so than all of the other colors. We talked about it a little in black, but there are a lot more red cards that care about having other red cards. So there's a little bit of like cannibalism that happens there. But we'll just start going through basically one by one. Harana, this is the quote unquote dash Harana that people use. Her enter effect is draw a card and enter charge one. She has the big thing about her is her once per game that she gets the ability whenever she attacks, you can down 2 up to level 2 Elrigs. If you do, this Elrig deals damage to your opponent unless they discard a guard. So this is a basically a free second attack that doesn't even count as an attack, as long as you have 2 level 2 Elrigs on your field. This combos with some of the. At some point, I may show you the Dash Harana, the full deck, and we can talk about how that deck works. But yeah, this is basically a way printed on your level 3 Elrig to just generate an extra damage basically for free. So that's why people use it. X, we talked about both Deus and Machina. X is the third partner of the three of them. So both Deus and Machina are black, and X is red. Her center ability is whenever a soul is attached to a signia on your field, you can discard to draw, so you can rummage. She also has an action like Deus does to attach souls, and her exceed, remove a piece. If you do up to 2 target red signia, gain assassin until end of turn. So very offensive with that. Again, they specifically target red signia, so you kind of have to build your deck around it. But it's a way to really threaten a lot of aggressive damage. And again, you're not generating extra enter by removing your opponent's signet. You're just giving them assassin and just bypassing the blockers entirely, which is really powerful. The level 2 effect is whenever the soul is attached, it vanishes target signet 12k or less. So this is basically similar to Deus 2. Functionally it's the same one, just instead of minus 12, it's vanishing. And then the X1 is whenever it attacks, you draw a card or enter charge 1. So it's an interesting way to like refill your resources if you need to. Carnival is the other center that we're going to talk about. She's interesting because she is coins. She will generate 5 coins throughout a game. Her action effect, discard a card, and then there is a spell that I'm blanking on the name of right now that has this effect to draw a card, enter charge 1, or trash a signy. It's basically a really flexible. This is a non-red Elrig that the abilities are not red, but she's just on a red Elrig. So drawing a card is like a blue thing. Enter charge 1 is like a green thing. Trashing a signy is kind of like a black thing, maybe a white thing, you could argue. The fact that she is red is sort of it's just a really interesting color situation that she has with this. She also has the once per game to make 2 target signy servant 0, which are just vanilla 1Ks, so they're super easy to remove. Yeah, I used this in the Grand Prix to pretty good effect. So I have a soft spot for her as well, but I think she's still quite powerful even for red centers. I think she's probably, it's hard to say between her and X which one is better. If you're going all out aggro, X is pretty powerful, but Carnival is more mid-range, like flexible option that you don't have to go all out on the aggro strategy, and you can have some other options to do that. DJ Love It Scratch, this is the quote unquote vanilla red. Just vanishes a Signy with power 10k or less. Again, every color has their sort of regular effect, so all of the red level ones have a way to just vanish Signy. X Echo is interesting because she's actually quite similar to Madoka Float. The difference being you have to discard a red card again because red cares about red. But you discard a red card and draw 3, so that's actually pretty powerful. She also has an auto effect, which I probably have been in games where I have seen this. Well, I should have seen this, but I didn't because it's really easy to forget that this exists. If this is ever put into the trash as an exceed cost, you get to rummage, discard a card, and draw a card. So it's not nothing. I mean, it's something to not forget about. It's potentially useful. Usually you just have it for the +2 on card draw, which is very uncommon for a red level 1. She also has a really good level 2 assist. You can pay colorless for each level of target Signy on your opponent's field to vanish it. So if you have a level 1 you need to remove, just pay 1. If there's a scary level 3 you need to get rid of, you pay 3. Additionally, you get to burn 2 of your opponent's enter that do not share a color with their center. So this is it's a good removal to open a lane and protect you by doing so. Additionally, the enter burn is not nothing for that. So yeah, she's really good with that. Haneo Sakura is, again, similar, vanish, power 5k or less. This one is different because it also enter charges you 1. So this is, whenever you're looking for level 1s, if you have like a sort of prototypical effect like this one that's just vanish, if they have a secondary effect they put on it usually means they're very good. Which is Machina Wing Slash was the same way. Haneo Sakura, again. You're already opening a lane with this one, but you just get a free enter charge out of it, so it's pretty good. Haneo Genshin, this is a non-attack phase one, so you gotta hope it's pretty good, but this one actually is quite good. So it's 1 to grow. You either draw 2 or enter charge 2, so it pays for itself +1 already, or you can draw 2 cards if you need to. And then, most importantly, you can give a target level 3 Signy double crush until end of turn. So when it hits, it crushes 2 life cloth instead of 1. So it's very aggressive. There are some ways to. There's a Musica Center Elrig that lets you reuse assist Elrigs that don't have attack phase timing and cost enter to grow. A long way of saying that there is a center Elrig that allows you to use this twice in a game, and it's a pretty powerful effect too. It's reasonably powerful to use once, but if you can use it twice, it's actually really powerful. So this is a card that is coming out soon and that I'm very excited about. Carnival Sin. This is an assist Elrig.
Yeah, you like the Carnival.
I do, but this one especially. So it has a main phase or attack phase timing. So enter, target 1 Signy on the field. It gains Assassin, Lancer, or cannot attack until end of turn. And then you can pay 2 more enter and choose a second one. So this is completely unique in that it is both a defensive 2-stop and an offensive 2 open. Because you can either use it defensively to stop 2 of your opponent's Signy from attacking, or you can use it offensively to give 2 of your Signy Assassin, and now you're attacking through their stuff. So we haven't really seen a card like this before. This is definitely something to keep an eye out for, because I think it's quite powerful. Because, again, usually you're getting either offense or defense, but not really both. I mean, some of the open ones that open a lane give you like 1 of both, but usually not 2. So yeah, this is something to definitely keep an eye on for. The only piece in red that I think is worth discussing is Entwined Supremacy. It is your level 3 Elrig gets the ability that whenever it attacks, you get to crush 1 of your opponent's life cloth for free. Additionally, if your opponent uses a life burst of it, you can pay 2 colorless enter to basically counterspell the life burst. So if they hit a life burst that's potentially really powerful, you know, if they hit a servant, they're about to get a servant back, you can pay 2 and just completely stop the life burst effect from happening. Currently, the only way in the game right now, at least in English, to actually stop life bursts from triggering. Typically, though, it's used because it pays 1 red and it crushes an opponent's life cloth. So it's a really good rate to just get an extra piece of damage in. It is a Dream Team piece, though, so you kind of have to build your deck with it. All right, for non-life burst Signy, I've referenced this one a lot. Romail, it is a enter effect to pay and enter to vanish target Signy with power 3k or less. Really sort of prototypical for what red wants to do. This is one of the reasons why 3k is a threshold. It dawns on me now that I actually skipped Oigona, I think, as a black Signy that also level 1 that vanishes 3k or less, but that's fine. So yeah, this is
It's okay. Black Signy's had all the big ones anyway.
Yeah, yeah. But this is a level 1, so that's the reason why.
Yeah.
Ogono is also a level 1. That's the reason why it's relevant is because it's the level 1 that does that. There's another card. I think it has a life burst. We'll just come back to it later. Lancelot is sort of the big sister to Romael. Vanish target seeking a power 5k or less. Again, as far as classes are concerned, these are both brave Signy. So if you are... Oh, no, this is a war turn armed. Oh, I didn't realize that. Must be another brave level 1 that I'm not thinking of. I thought these were the same class. That's so weird. Maybe I've been misplaying that the whole time. Anyway, Lancelot's a really powerful card, and it's always something to keep in mind if your opponent is running red. They're almost certainly running a non-trivial number of Lancelots. So having Signy with power more than 5,000 is preferable if possible, because she will open lanes all day. Mars, this is another care about red Signy. Her enter effect is discard 3 red cards to get Assassin, which is pretty good because it doesn't cost enter, it just costs cards in hand. And if you have like Song of WIXOSS or other ways to just generate a bunch of cards in your hand, you can just give her Assassin. Also,
Yeah.
whenever she vanishes a Signy on your opponent's field, you get to burn an enter that does not share a color. Red is the color of enter burn. A lot of it is cards that don't share colors with their centers, so you'll see that probably a lot. Hera is sort of I don't want to say Lancelot at home because in dedicated red decks she's better than Lancelot. The problem is you have to be in a dedicated red deck. Whenever she attacks, if all the Signy in your field are red, you can pay a red to vanish a Signy with power 5k or less. So it's literally Lancelot, except it's attack phase timing. It's specifically when she attacks, so you're not like committed to the paying the enter and vanishing until you're actually doing the damage. So that's really powerful. Again, the downside is you have to have all the Signy on your field be red. So
Yeah.
that's sort of the downside. You don't really see Hera really at all, but you'll see Lancelot a lot because the opportunity cost of Lancelot is nothing versus Hera. Again, you have to be dedicated. Nobunaga is another card. I've referenced this a couple times. She has Rise on top of a red Signy. Pay a red to vanish a Signy with power 8k or less. You can pay 2 red to give her Double Crush. So she basically comes in at 13k, so she's big. Pay a red to open a lane. Pay 2 more red to get Double Crush. So now, basically out of nowhere, you're swinging for 2 damage in one lane. Sort of like,
Yeah.
again, completely out of nowhere, potentially. So this is one of the reasons why. And she is a brave, which is the same. Okay, these are both brave. So yeah, if you're doing a countdown heal situation, you can do like a Lancelot into a Nobunaga thing and do some gross stuff with that. Amethystal is not a card that I have seen very often, but I really like this card. Whenever this attacks, you get to rummage, discard a card, draw a card. 2k is a little low. It's a level 1 with no life burst, which I think is fine. It's basically a way to filter through your deck if you need to. It does trigger discard things that we saw like in Madoka if you're running that kind of stuff. So you could potentially abuse it with that kind of stuff in blue if you wanted to. But it's nice. There's a surprising amount of red card selection, and this is a good level 1 way of doing that. Buffalo is sort of the prototypical Terra Beast tribal Signy. Whenever another Terra Beast enters the field, this Signy and that one get plus 4k until end of turn, so you can already see like Terra Beast buffing their own power and stuff. At the beginning of your attack phase, all Signy with power 20k or more gain whenever this attacks. You can pay 2 to vanish a Signy in front of this with power 12k or less. So this will trigger a lot of times. Paying 2 to vanish is potentially a lot. Also, getting to the 20k is not nothing. But she is sort of again, she's here just as the like Terra Beast enabler. Like if you're running Terra Beasts, like Buffalo is a thing you could run and have a bunch of Terra Beasts in red and green and kind of go that route. It's not really that powerful all that much, just because it's hard to kind of rely on that kind of stuff. And red and green are arguably the 2 worst colors right now.
Yeah,
So,
you mentioned that earlier.
yeah. It does have this payoff, which is actually quite powerful. So Tenguzaru is a Terra Beast. As long as its power is 12k or more, it gains it cannot be downed by your opponent's effects. So with just Buffalo on the field and then you play Tenguzaru, it cannot be downed regardless of what your effect is. So if they have like a Madoka Clap, it's immune to Madoka Clap. And then you can pay 3 as an action. If its power is 15k or more, it gets Assassin until end of turn. So having this kind of effect on a level 2 is actually quite uncommon. It's a very powerful level 2. You kind of have to build around it, which is the downside, but it potentially could be worth it if you wanted to do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Carnival Memoria. This enter effect is way too expensive. that it's not really worth talking about. The main thing that makes her interesting is you can pay 0 to put all cards underneath her or attached to her in your owner's trash. Basically, quote unquote, blank this out, and then she becomes the same card as target Signy on the field that doesn't have a rule box associated with it. So if you have either your field or your opponent's field, so there are some weird things you can do if your opponent has like an Exia or something, or if you wanted to, if you wanted to use her as a Bruno or whatever. Like there's a lot of weird, tricky things you can do with her. She has a lot of weird rules implications because you can turn her into a level 2 and then play another level 3, and then at the end of turn, now your board is illegal, so you have to trash things, and a bunch of weird stuff happens when she becomes other Signy. Typically, it's more trouble than it's worth, but the fact that she can become any Signy on the field as long as it doesn't have, Rise or Harmony, whatever the black box effects, there's some interesting, weird things you can do with that.
Yeah.
Halberd is whenever an up Signy in your field becomes a target of an effect of your opponent's Assist, Elrig, or Life Burst, you can pay 4 to crush your opponent's Life Cloth. So if they're trying to stop you from doing damage, if you have the enter to pay for it, you can basically punish them for doing so. If you're like threatening lethal potentially, and they try to like, if they have maybe 1 enter or whatever, they try to Machina smash you to vanish a Signy. Now you can pay the 4 and just like, all right, we'll punish you back. She also has a decent effect. It costs a red, which kind of sucks, but you discard a card and draw 2. So again, not nothing. It's just an interesting way to kind of punish for trying to mess with your stuff. Flathrow is sort of the all-in combo, one of the combo enablers in the all-in Dash Harana build. At the beginning of your attack phase, you can discard your hand. If you discarded 6 or more cards this way, you get to crush an opponent's Life Cloth for quote unquote for free. I mean, you're just discarding 6 cards, so that kind of sucks. But that's where like the Song of WIXOSS comes in. If you're going to discard all that stuff anyway, you can at least get effects out of it. She also has an auto effect that plays with that if she attacks, if you have no cards in hand, you can pay 2 and give her Assassin. So again, you can bypass the body on the field to deny enter even more, still threaten damage, and this is basically sort of all-out offense, which is somewhat uncommon on a Signy to crush a Life Cloth like that without having your opponent interact in some way.
A chance to interact, yeah.
Right. Monahari is, I would say she's the best coin payoff in the game right now. Vanish target Signy your opponent's field with power 3k or less. The downside is you have to be running an Elrig with coins. Obviously the best in Carnival, but if you're running, an Aya or a Mel, and you're in red, you can kind of splash that as well. But yeah, the fact that you can vanish for quote unquote free, because the coins are basically just free resources, and there's not a lot of good spenders right now. I think Monahari is the best one. Ex Memoria, at the beginning of your attack phase, target 1 Signy in your opponent's field with power 10k or lower, and you can put a red Signy underneath this card into the trash to vanish it. Enter, I should have started with the enter. Put up to 3 Signy from your enter zone underneath this Signy. So you're starving your own enter to do this, but you're kind of just like paying it like in advance. You can put 1 Signy underneath from your enter, and then on the attack phase, you pay that Signy that you use from the enter to vanish something. Also, when the Signy's vanished outside of the main phase, your opponent burns an enter for each card underneath this Signy. So you could use this as like more dedicated enter denial as well. That if you're like, all right, you can try to remove this, but this is just going to burn out all of the enter you have left. So that's something to, again, to try to... Red does a lot of this, punishing like your opponent from messing with your stuff. So X kind of plays into that. Kagutsuchi is the most important thing is the enter effect to discard 2 cards to put a level 3 Signy from your trash onto the field. It sounds expensive. It's less expensive than it sounds because you're discarding 2 to quote unquote draw 1, and the fact that you're getting a specific level 3 Signy from the trash is not nothing, especially with how powerful some of these Signy are. I mean, you could do the kind of thing where Kagutsuchi discard 2 cards, and you can bring back a Nobunaga as a level 3 Signy, and then you can just rise the Nobunaga on top of the Kagutsuchi if you wanted to. Yeah. So that's some good tech to have. It's sort of a flexible, like, this card can kind of just become whatever card you want it to be, essentially. Kind of like Carnival, except you can pull things out of the trash. Cargo Code Ride, she's most important in sort of enter denial, enter burning strategies. You can put target card from your opponent's enter zone into their trash and enter charge them 1. Net this is a net neutral of 0. It doesn't necessarily do anything per se. What it does do potentially, you'll notice this does not say they have to share color. So you could potentially deny them the ability to grow with this. If you like hit their one white source, for example, if they're on Tama. Additionally, there are cards, I didn't highlight any of them because a lot of them are awkward and bad, that care about when your opponent has a card trashed from their enter zone that they trigger. They have extra triggers or extra effects to trigger. So that's a way to also trigger those effects basically for free. So yeah, this is it's one of the few ways, especially at level 1, to actually like potentially deny your opponents a grow just by way of, I mean, it's very RNG. Like you could flip them into the same color and then you've done nothing. But yeah, it's a way to, again, deny the grow, which is potentially a big deal, especially if you can deny it on level like 2. Alexandrite, this is a really interesting card. It's a little awkward and hard to use at times. Whenever another Signy, on your field gets Assassin Lancer or Double Crush, you can pay 2 to also give it this card that ability. Yeah, so you can really double up on your effects. Well, it's one of the reasons why I think Mel Present is really interesting, because Mel Present can give a Signy Lancer, and then Alexandrite can also get Lancer. You can also use this with like the X once per game that gives 2 red Signy Assassin, and then you can pay 2 enter to also give Alexandrite Assassin. You can do a similar thing with Nobunaga, that once Nobunaga gets Double Crush, you can give Alexandrite Double Crush. So there's a lot of really interesting, I mean, these keywords, Lancer not so much in red, but Assassin and Double Crush are pretty common in red. And this is a really flexible way to just threaten a lot of damage. Now, is it better than some of the other cards? Hard to say. Because Nobunaga, like the fact that you have to rise, it's like a -1. So it's hard to say whether you would just run another Nobunaga versus an Alexandrite. So yeah, just something to think about. Diabride, she actually, both of her abilities are like pretty good. Neither of them are like really powerful, but they're both solid. Whenever a red Signy in your field becomes a target of your opponent's ability or effect, they choose a card from their enter zone and trash it. So it's a little bit of enter denial. If they needed to, like if you're about to attack and they try to, assist Elric vanish something, whatever, or even the Madoka Clap or downing, any assist Elrigs that target stuff, Diabride will trigger. She also has the enter effect. Discard a card, look at the top 2, and put 1 to hand and the rest in the trash. So it's better than a rummage because you're looking at top 2 instead of just the top 1. So both of these effects on their own are like okay. You put them both together, they're pretty useful overall. She's one of the better level 3, just sort of value red Signy in the game. Tristan, there's a Signy in each color that has this effect. So it's a vanilla 10k. It only has a life burst to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, add up to 3 of them into your hand, and the rest go on the bottom of the deck. There is one of these in every color. Tristan is probably the best one just because red typically has the hardest struggles actually getting positive card advantage. But all of the other colors have ways to add cards to the hand pretty regularly. Like black can get it from trash. White and blue can both draw it or get it from the deck. Green can get it from enter. Red doesn't really have any of that stuff. So Tristan is like the one where this is like super relevant because you're kind of burning through all your stuff and then they hit a Tristan life burst and now you were like off to the races with your brand new hand basically. And then Yuzuki is at the beginning of your attack phase. If your opponent has 4 or more enter, you can pay 3 and then basically force them to burn 2 of it. It's another way to sort of keep them off of their potential assist grows if you're trying to threaten lethal, that kind of thing. The fact that this is level 1 is the only reason it's relevant, just because you want to have a lot of level 1s, and sometimes it's like, all right, I can put in a couple Yuzukis in here and call it a day. So yeah, it's a decent card.